On this lesson, I'm going to teach you a technique to get a similar effect if you don't own a graphics tablet. So you can see that if I try to draw with my mouse, and I'm actually using the brush tool, so let's use the blur brush, you can see that the circle really doesn't look quite well. So maybe you can do it better, which is okay, but if you want to use a different technique to achieve a similar result, you can do it. So let's use shape tools. So let's just create an ellipse, and what we're going to be doing is basically tracing our bear, which you could do if you wanted to create a vector illustration. So I'm just creating an ellipse, and if you don't see any of the windows that I have here, just please go to Window and find for it. Also, if you're using the latest version of Illustrator, you're going to have this properties window, which is amazing because you have almost all the helpful tools right there. So just quite there, and let's increase the stroke so that this matches the one on the rabbit. Now let's keep doing with little ellipses. I'm creating the eyes, and then pressing Alt and Shift while dragging to create a copy. Let's make a circle, use my eyedropper by selecting the same style, and by pressing C, I can use the scissors and just click on the intersected points and delete the excess. So just go right click, transform, and reflect to make the other ear. So just make a copy. Luckily, this is something that you already know how to do, so it won't take a lot of time. But if you don't, just follow me. I'm going to be using the pen tool for the mouth, so just making a point and then another one. And you can use the direct selection tool to refine your path. So just with your pen tool, create it and make it just like this. And the other side, maybe a little bit more curved. So something more refined, like this. So now let's do the other part of the mouth. Again, using my direct selection tool to refine it. And let's go and work on the top of the nose to create something like this. Just using my pen tool to create kind of the half. You can see that I'm trying to align the top and bottom anchor points. So now let's go right click, transform, reflect, and make a copy. And I can select both of them. Go here to the align, but make sure that you first make one the key object. And to do that, just click again on one of the sides. You can see that now the outline is going to look thicker. And once you've done that, even the icon here is going to change into a little key. Just click on the distribute spacing to be 0. Now with my direct selection tool, I can select both the anchor points and join them. Now let's use ellipses to create our cheeks. And now I need to align everything, so I have to make sure that I group it by going Object Group or pressing Ctrl G. So let's group the elements that you have 2 of them, so like the eyes, and then align them. Actually, I made a mistake there because I didn't group the cheeks. So once you do that, select everything, click again on the big ellipse to make it the key object and align it. Now let's go here and do an ellipse. I can select these anchor points and move them a little bit to the bottom, so I get a lower belly. Now with my scissors, by going here or pressing C, I can cut this top part with the anchor points that are intersecting. Now with my pen tool, I can create these half ellipses. You could also create ellipses if you prefer, but I think in the case of these shapes, it's better to use the pen tool. So let's just select one, right click, transform, reflect, and make a copy. And move it to the other side. Now let's do the feet. Again, I'm using my pen tool. And I'm going to go right click, transform, reflect, copy. And finally the belly. So make sure that you have these 2, group them, and align them properly. Next, I want to create the belly, so I'm gonna do it again with my pen tool. And the reason why I prefer to do it with a pen tool instead of an ellipse is because it gives a little imperfection, which is something that we're looking if we are trying to replicate what we did with the rabbit. So first we can see a little bit of the difference. Here, this is, I think the outline is thicker, than the one on the rabbit, so we can decrease the stroke. So let's select everything except the eyes, because those one doesn't have a stroke, and let's decrease it so it looks a little bit better. So maybe something around 25 works fine. Next, we can see that the caps of the ends are rounded and the ones on the bear are flat. So let's go and change that in our stroke window here. Just select round cap and also a round corner, in case you have any corners on your own design. Now, another thing that we can see here is that they go from thick to thin, because I was drawing them with a graphics tablet. So to change that, what I need to do is first let's go here to my width tool, or you can access it here or pressing Shift W. And if you click and hold the click, you can increase the thickness in only one part of your shape. So you can see that immediately those ears are looking different, because they are going from something thick to thinner, as we had on our rabbit. And we could do that on all the lines that are making our rabbit. So let's increase one there, and also on our lips. So just using my width tool, you can find and create a new anchor point or use an existing one, just like that. Let's increase this a bit, or you could actually decrease it if you go into the other side. Do something like this. All right, next, the body. And it doesn't have to be as I am doing it here, which is I'm only doing in one part. Maybe you want your line to look a little bit thicker, then a little bit thin. So add a couple more of these points with the width tool. And that way you can create different effects. So going from thick to thinner to thick again, and have a similar effect. It depends really on to you and what do you want. And really the goal here is that we are adding a little bit of imperfection to our vectors. Because I think what really makes a vector look perfect is that they are perfect, of course. And if you add a little bit of an imperfection, then you're making this look a little bit better. So finally, let's go to our mouth and decrease this a little bit. Now we can also use our direct selection tool to move them a bit. So now we have a little bit of a variation. It might be too much. It might be really not looking as a rabbit. But now my ellipses are perfect. I don't want that. So I can select all my ellipses and then go here to Effect and then go find this Sort and Transform, and let's go to Roughen. Now if I have a little preview, you can see that this goes crazy because this is first relative. I need to change to absolute, make sure that my points are smooth, decrease the detail, and let's increase the size. So maybe something about 15 works well. You can see that their ellipses are a little bit different. They are not perfect, especially on the eyes. You can see how one is bigger than the other. So maybe that is something that you want. Now the ellipses don't look as perfect as they used to be. And now in here, you have your bear. As I said, this is not perfect. You could have a different thickness on the lines, maybe have the outsides a little bit thicker than the ones on the insides. So we can do that. We can increase the thickness on the arms a little bit. So the outside lines are a little bit thicker than the ones on the inside. So let's go and change this one to around 40 maybe. I think it's looking better. So again, you have to make sure that all these things are not interfering with your line. You have to not be able to see these differences. And there you go. You have a bird that it doesn't completely look hand-drawn, but this is a way you can get around if you don't own a graphics tablet. So in the next lesson, I'm going to teach you another technique to achieve a similar effect.